everyone, it's Maddie.
And me, and today we wanted to talk about Project Imposters because at the end of February, the 27th to be exact, it's the 2nd anniversary of when we started on this project. And to celebrate that, we wanted to talk about the whole journey, like where we've been and what we plan on doing this year.
2 years, in the scheme of things, in terms of writing a book, is quite a short amount of time. But before we started this project, because this was the first thing that we were taking seriously on the road to traditional publication, I thought that 2 years was a really long time, and I assumed that we would have an agent by now 2 years ago.
That feels so cringy to admit just because it's such an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
But I feel like everyone goes in with that thought that like, oh, I can just whack out a book and have it edited. But no.
That's not the case. I used to hear about people that had been working on a book for like 10 years and then got it published. I was like, 10 years? How did that go by?
Yeah.
Hopefully this project isn't on a 10-year time span, but I can definitely see it being like another 2 years from now at least.
Yeah. It was weird when we first started because we were writing Candid for a competition. It didn't start that way. It was an idea that kind of sparked off a bunch of different little bits of inspiration, and we wrote like 12,000 words in a weekend, which was completely unheard of for us. It was the first thing we'd ever written together, and then in that summer we just so happened to find out about a competition called One Page Wonder, ran by Simon & Schuster, where you just submitted 1 page of a manuscript and 1 page of synopsis for that story. And then from that there was a long list of people who would then submit more, I think it was 3 chapters, and then there was a short list from that where you sent the full manuscript, and after that you could get full feedback. Basically we got an edit letter. So we got right through to the very end and we received a 2-page edit letter about everything that was wrong with Candid. But from that we were working to deadlines, so we had until the end of the summer to have our first page, but we'd already done that, and then in NaNoWriMo we had written the full book. So we were like slightly ready before every deadline, but January was crazy because we had until February to have the whole thing finished, and obviously at the end of November we only had 50,000 words.
And also this was in our 3rd year of university that we were working on this, so we had all of our big essays due in the Christmas time, so we didn't really work on it in December, and our hand-in I think was like January 12th, so literally we had a month to polish it off to something that we'd be pleased to send to actual publishing people.
To be honest, the 2 years that we have decided to start working on this have probably been the most chaotic ever. And even though we had 2 university summers, we were just so burnt out from the university work that we'd done that we found that we could never work on it as much as we hoped we could.
Basically what we never saw when we first started this project was that we'd always be working to deadlines with it. I thought that they would be personal deadlines, like, oh, finish this book within a year, but the fact that we always had quite short turnaround deadlines for this project meant that it got written a lot quicker than it possibly could, so that was a total positive. But the negative was it never felt like we were doing things to our own speed. I always retroactively think that if I'd had more time to think about things, would we be in the space we are now where there were like such glaring errors that we didn't see?
I think because it was the first story we'd written, we would never have been able to write anything better than that first go. That's what I tell myself to feel better about the criticism we received, because some of it was really like, oh wow, okay, whoops.
The thing is, when we first started we had quite and I don't feel bad admitting this, but we had quite an obnoxious confidence about the story. I felt so sure that what I was writing was what I was meant to be writing, especially with the context of university, having to write things that I wasn't necessarily like 100% in.
The point was, every decision that we made about the plot and the characters at that time, I was like, this is right, this is building towards something exceptional. And then to get feedback and to see like, actually you shouldn't have done that because it meant that this couldn't pay off. So in that sense it's been a real journey of acceptance that the first thing you think of isn't always the right thing, and your judgment isn't always right either. Like, some people can know more about your story because they're seeing it from different eyes. We were very, very biased towards our characters.
Yeah, totally.
Because our main problem was just that we didn't have enough conflict.
We've definitely learnt our lesson, and the new plot that we've come up with is definitely paying more attention to those things, because I think when you're writing something for the first time as well, you try not to be too self-conscious about it.
It was purely for us.
Yeah, exactly. We were writing what we wanted to write, what we wanted to read, and so we weren't thinking about the mechanics of a story.
And then suddenly when that was switched on to us, it was quite scary, and I felt that I could never write another book because I was like, no, there's no way I can adhere to this, because it felt like so much to juggle in your mind, like what you wanted to do versus what you should do versus what everyone else was doing. It felt insurmountable, really, and I think that is what truly has held us back for the last 6 months in working on it, because we did put Project Imposters down to start other things. We planned an entire thriller, then we had our TFM project in November, which was a fantasy story, completely different to what we were writing.
Yeah, and we kept saying to ourselves that maybe our Project Imposters wasn't worth going back to because there were too many things to fix about it, and maybe we were better off just starting something new. So we set ourselves a deadline of December of 2018.
It was an ultimatum.
Yeah, it was.
What it was.
If we didn't work on it in December, then we were essentially saying to ourselves that we didn't ever want to work on it, we couldn't see ourselves continuing on, so that was going to be like the time to shelve it. And my heart was just filled with ice when I thought about not working on it. I hadn't come this far to stop now, so...
We give ourselves a lot of false threats in general, of like, we'll never work on this again, and we threaten... I think we threatened to give up on it a lot, but that just helped us realise how much we truly did not want to do that.
2019 was a turning point. We decided in January that we were going to take it seriously. It was going to be our main priority for the year, and if we didn't finish this new draft by the end of the year, then we hadn't done anything worthwhile, essentially. It meant that we would be prioritising the wrong things.
It undercuts like all of your other achievements if you don't do the one thing that you wanted to prioritise.
Yeah.
So it was essentially adding guilt to us for doing literally anything other than working on this project. Be that like working on a different writing project, but also any of our other hobbies. It always felt a bit like, I'm prioritising doing this instead of writing, which is what I truly, truly want. Because we lost the vision.
Yeah, we definitely lost sight of why this was important to us.
Like when we were writing the first draft, we would always talk about like the long dream, like imagining ourselves like at events or signing, or just imagining people coming up to us and talking to us about our own book and the characters meaning something to them. And the prospect of that was so exciting, and it really helped us in the moments where it felt like we couldn't move on. If we got stuck in the plot, it would just be like, no, come on, we're working towards this dream. So 2019 has also been trying to find that again.
Going back to the drawing board has made me realise how much these characters mean to me as well. It sounds cheesy, but I want to write it for them. Like, it would be so sad to lose these characters, because we chose this as our like debut story, as it were, for a reason. Yeah. We wanted this to set the tone for the themes of the other books that we would write, the characters that we would want to focus on. And I feel like if we started with something else, then the context of like
it would be the wrong foot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is still special to us, and I'm it took ages to realise that actually, that it truly was the book of our heart.
A lot of things have held us back for this project. The number one is that we are not going to improve it, which is a complete lie. In the writing itself, obviously it's 2 years on from when we first started, and we've had heaps of practice since then. And then also just in terms of plot, like we always second guess ourselves when it came to making decisions for this revision of like, oh, is this actually doing anything, or is it just doing the same thing in a slightly different way? And we worry a lot that the revision isn't going to solve the problems and that they're still going to be there.
Yeah, I think what also scares me is that we're just going to end up creating new problems, and it'll be a cycle of just never getting it perfect. And I know that that's what writing is, that there's no such thing as a perfect draft, because you're always going to latch onto something that you think could be better. As you said, like we've got so much into a pattern of thinking of everything isn't right that I'm scared that when we eventually do land on what is right, I won't think it is, because I'm so used to thinking the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
Over the 2 years, our mindset has done a complete 180. We went from being really, really confident about the story and that it was the right thing that we were doing this whole time, to feeling devastatingly insecure about it, and that it was not at all right. There was not even one salvageable part of it. And now we're kind of coming out of that, realising that that was a dark fog that was not real. I don't really know where I sit on the scale, if I'm like more towards confident or still quite insecure. I think that this second draft will definitely tell me at the end where I feel.
We're going to say this like a million times on our channel now, because it is the one thing that's resonated with us over this 2 years, and that is the saying of, you can be completely ready, but you still need luck to succeed. So there will be a point when it's ready, and then when it comes to sending it out to other people or trying to be traditionally published, just because it may not work in our favour does not mean that it's the story. It may just be the market, like wrong place, wrong time. Oh, that's one of my huge fears, that we're too late, we've missed the boat for this story, that 2 years ago when we first started writing it would have been perfect. You just can't predict that kind of thing, so we need to like keep in mind, like, as long as we are doing everything that we feel is right and true to the story, that's all we can do. We want to get it to a place where we're happy with it, where we get back to a bit of that obnoxious confidence, like this is the best it could be, because if you're not going to be that for your own story, then who is?
So hopefully next year we'll be able to do another video like this and just show you how much progress we've made, because it can't help but feel like a step back, deciding to go from a complete square one with this story.
Yeah,
but
having to realise that it wasn't an edit, it was a rewrite.
It's not square one because there was a whole other game before it that we've just finished, and now we're on a new one. And that doesn't mean that like all that time was wasted, because we have finally got to the right time.
We hope that some parts of this discussion have been relatable to you and your project, and it feels so nice to get it off our chest. I think this has been holding us back as well, because we haven't really been talking about this project on this channel for ages.
We've certainly been hiding the more negative aspects of it, because I didn't want to be that vulnerable about the story. I didn't want to admit to myself that it was in the shape it was.
Yeah, exactly.
But now saying it all out loud, I feel like I can move on from that and start afresh, not feeling as held back.
And look forward to content about Project Imposters in the future. Be excited for it, because we are, and hopefully we will be able to chart this process a little more accurately than last time, because I'm so sad, honestly, that we weren't able to vlog it as we were doing it, because I would have loved to see our NaNoWriMo from 2 years ago, but we didn't film it because we were just like, that would add too much pressure. But I think now we're in a state of like, no, it would add accountability. So hopefully we'll be able to do more frequent updates about the story, more frequent than we did the very first year. If you want to see all of our original videos about the start of Project Imposters, then we will leave that playlist in the description and in the cards.
Thank you everyone so much for watching. We make writing videos every Thursday, so subscribe if you haven't already.
You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MaddieNB, and we will see you next time.